I actually bought myself a Bizarro t-shirt to walk around cons and stuff with. And I will tell you, you don't know that it's backwards because every time you look in the mirror, it's
You
like,
see, yeah,
oh, I look
yeah.
like Superman. Damn, I look awesome.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers. And now, here are
Heath and
Patrick.
Hey there.
Heath Corson. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well, Patrick. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Not a problem. It's my pleasure.
Neat. I'm also, I got a brand new microphone for this, so this is, I hope you feel extra special.
I do. I hope you didn't buy it on my account.
Let's see. I'm going to say yes, just to.
Yeah, sure. Of course.
I mean, I will use it for other things after this, just because, I have it, but, yeah, you were the impetus, let's say.
Wow, look at that. Bizarro brings people together. That's what
Right?
I like most about it.
I
It's
agree.
really, yeah.
It's also freaking me out because it used to use just headphones, but now in the practice runs it needed headphones, but now I don't. So I can hear you from my normal computer.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm new at this recording digitally from Skype thing. This is not. I mean, we've been doing our podcast since 2009, but never so technologically as we do now. So it's all. You're an LA guy. This stuff is second nature to you. You do
Sure.
podcasts all the time and interviews and YouTube shows and stuff like that. So I just don't want to embarrass us before we even get a chance for
kidding? You're doing it. It's wonderful.
All
You've
right.
You've been doing it since 2009. You've only been recording it since now.
There we go. It's all perfect. I don't even know where to start. I'm just going to start rambling and we'll go from there.
Let's do it. Let's be all over the dance floor. Just go.
We're gonna start moving, and whichever direction it goes, even if we're not going to the same place, we'll get there eventually.
That's fine.
I love
that.
I feel like you'll be leading more than I will be, but we'll make it work. How did you get involved in the Bizarro comic? We have, of course, and I need to, I guess, step back and say that I am talking to Heath Corson, the gentleman who is currently writing Bizarro from DC, one of our absolute favorite books being published now. It's funny, it's entertaining for everybody, and it's gorgeous. And
it is. Gustavo Duarte does all the art, and he is spectacular. He is an amazing partner to have. We have just a blast. We have pretty much the same sense of humor, and I just get so excited to send him scripts and see what he says, and he texts me and sends me art, and we talk all day long. It's really a lot of fun to have him as a storyteller on this. Yeah, he's a co-conspirator. He's a co-storyteller. It's just been fantastic.
Nice. Did you know him before this?
Not at all. We were a DC arranged marriage.
All right. Sometimes those work really well.
And it happens to work really well in this situation. So how did I get involved? I had written a bunch of the animated movies for Warner Brothers with the DC characters. So I was promoting Throne of Atlantis last year at New York Comic Con.
Okay.
And I basically had cornered one of the editors for DC who I'd been stalking for about a year. And I said, hey, you're showing my preview at your booth. Why don't you let me write one of your comic books? And he was like, well, what would you want to do? And I started, I prepared a whole bunch of pitches, and
Sure.
I started rattling off a whole bunch of ideas. And he was like, well, okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And he stops me and he says, you don't happen to have a Bizarro pitch, do you? And the funny thing was that I did. For some reason, I had this Bizarro road trip idea that was at the bottom of my list. I thought I could pitch it and get a laugh. That was really what I thought. I thought I would say, it's Bizarro and Jimmy Olsen in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And he would go, oh, that's funny, and that would be it. To my complete surprise, he says, I like that. Write that up. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And he's like, no, and make it as weird and as crazy and as funny as you possibly can. Like, throw everything you possibly ever wanted in it. And I was like, okay. And then he showed me some of the sketches that Gustavo had been doing about Bizarro. And it totally clicked. Like, we were saying the same thing. We were not doing the twisted monster, misunderstood,
Yeah, the
tortured
Frankenstein version.
Frankenstein. We were doing this guy who was uh, just lovable and happy and excited and just so thrilled to be with his best friend, Jimmy Olsen, wandering around the countryside, that he's just having a ball. And I thought, that's so funny, is he's the one guy who's kind of not in on the joke.
Right.
He just sort of doesn't get it, but that's all right. He's sort of blissfully happy and unaware about it. And then, because then we have Jimmy, who's the guy who's bringing his uncool friend to the party. And it's like, dude, just be cool, okay? Just be cool for 2 minutes. And of course, Bizarro is never cool.
Never cool.
It's just like, oh, I can't believe you're doing this to me. So it's great fun to have these two guys and just bump up against each other. I mean, they're just a classic comedy duo. I also said they're a lot like Chris Farley and David Spade in Tommy Boy, which is another one of my favorite road trips.
I hadn't even made that connection, but that works perfectly. That's a great way to describe it.
So, there's a lot of just classic comedy teams that they sort of fit into. They're huge, huge fun to write. And that's sort of how I got involved.
Oh, man, please tell me at some point coming up you have Bizarro trying on one of Jimmy's coats.
We haven't got to,
and he's saying something like Bizarro in a little coat.
Yeah, Bizarro M in big coat.
Right.
We haven't gotten to that much yet, but we do. We have given a lot of nods to a lot of different road pictures that both myself and Gustavo love. I mean, he's a huge Blues Brothers fan.
Oh man, you don't need to tell us that. Oh, Oh yes.
He keeps pitching me at doing a signing with you guys, and he wants to do Bizarro and Jimmy as the Blues Brothers.
He did. We did an art show and a signing with him last October, and we always make up original prints. And he did his own flyer for us, and it was basically the Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
And he does like hiding the Blues Brothers in everything he does. And most of the conversations I have with him, whether it be when it was in person or via text, they either start or finish with, "We're on a mission from God."
He loves to say that.
Yep.
He just loves to say that.
Sometimes I'll just get that as a text with nothing else.
It's so funny.
Right?
The funniest thing is Gustavo and I have not met in person, and we are going to meet for the very first time this year at New York Comic Con.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I'm really excited. Yeah, it'll be really, really fun.
We got so lucky with him. He was, a couple years ago in San Diego, he was one of the people that had a table in Jill Thompson's section, because she used to buy sections of tables and have all her friends around her. And one of our staff was out there helping Jill with her booth, and she had got a hold of us and said, "Hey, pretty much everybody here has sketchbooks. Do you want any for the store?" And it was Gabriel Ba and Fabio Moon and Rafael Albuquerque and Gustavo Duarte, who at that point we honestly didn't know. So we said, sure, grab some books. And she came back with Taxi and Birds, two of his wonderful little books. And we were blown away. And then we were doing an art show with Raphael, who had just been at New York, and he was coming from the New York Comic Con to Chicago. And he said, "Hey, my friend Gustavo's here, and he's got a brand new book called Monstros.
Monstros is awesome.
Oh, man. So we're like, sure, why don't you bring them? We sold out of Monstros at the premiere party for Raphael's art.
Amazing.
We sold out of Gustavo's book at Raphael's show.
That's amazing. Well, you mentioned Jill Thompson. Jill Thompson, one of the people that launched me in this business, in fact.
You worked on Scary Godmother, right?
I wrote the Scary Godmother Halloween Spooktacular with Jill, because we put the show, we staged a live stage version of the show in 2001, 2002 at the Athenaeum.
Yep.
And it ran forever, ran for like months and months and months. And down to Mainframe Entertainment sent somebody who owned the rights to Jill's animation, sent somebody to come see it. And they were like, this script is better than the scripts we've already had generated. Would you guys write the animated special? So we wrote the animated special together.
Nice.
And the funniest thing that I just reminded him of this past year in San Diego, at the time, Mainframe Entertainment was being run by a little-known guy named Dan DiDio, who is
Are
now
you
my
kidding?
boss.
Oh, man.
Nope. It's now my boss at DC, and I reminded him of that on a panel, and he was like, holy crap, I remember that. Oh, my God. It was hilarious. So I was like, Dan, 13 years ago, this is your fault. You're the one who got me into this.
I can't believe our paths haven't crossed before, because I was at Subterranean for the fundraiser for the Scary Godmother play. I was at the play opening night with a group of people.
How funny.
I saw it a total of twice during its run.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's so weird.
Yep. All this time, Heath, ships passing in the night.
Hilarious. So you know that was my show, and it was the thing that sort of launched me. It was my very first sale, and it was the thing that I moved to Los Angeles soon after that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. Look at that, man. I
know.
I had no idea.
I know.
The
Jill
comics are so great.
I know. Jill and I are still talking about trying to do something together. I mean, I would love to do something with her. She's so funny and so charming, and still one of my favorite people in the world. Like,
she's a huge supporter of Challengers, and we can't thank her enough. And on a non-comic related note, she comes over to my place to watch wrestling pay-per-views.
Oh, hilarious.
Yeah. So wonderful. And I actually own a copy of the Halloween Spooktacular on DVD that I bought, even though Jill said there was something with the frame ratio or something with the first batch didn't quite look right, but it was fine.
Really? I don't know that I even know that.
I don't recall having a problem with it, but I'm gonna have to dig that out and have it with me next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. So yes, that was my very first thing that ever got produced that I wrote, and it was all due to Jill and Dan DiDio.
Wow.
Isn't that hilarious?
That's really great. The reason we're talking to Heath right now, and I say we, but it's just me. The reason Heath and I are talking right now is Heath will, of course, be at Challengers on Wednesday, which would be Wednesday, September 9th.
Yes.
To sign, BIZARRO and any of your Batman animated or Justice League animated DVDs.
Yes.
And Scary Godmother.
Scary Godmother.
And as I'm learning more about you, probably more things out there that I didn't.
I have a whole bunch of things floating around there.
Yeah.
I will sign anything and everything, including body parts.
Nice.
I will not be shy about that.
There's a tattoo shop around the corner called Animal Farm, so maybe we could have things immediately adhered to people's bodies permanently.
Oh my God, that would be awesome.
I do already have 2 Gustavo tattoos.
Do you really?
Yeah. In fact, I got one right before he came out, and as you know, he loves the number 32.
Uh-huh.
And he had asked me if he could, in any way, be the 32nd tattoo that I had. And at that point, I said, I don't know how many I have. So we literally stopped what we were doing and counted right then and there. And I was at 30. So I'm like, all right, Gustavo, and 2 more, it'll be yours.
It'll be yours.
Yeah.
That's
so I got a very large Gustavo octopus wearing a crown.
That's hilarious. Yeah. He's amazing. I very, very much hope that Gustavo and I get to do a lot more things together, and not just this one BIZARRO miniseries, because we are so simpatico in terms of the way that we work, and it's just great. I could take a half-assed joke, and he can bring the full ass to it. He can sell it. He sells it in a way that I'm just like, wow, that's just so much better.
Is that the ultimate name for the BIZARRO story when it's done? BIZARRO the full ass?
The full ass. That's right. Actually, he gave me the name for our last. I'm writing the last issue right now.
Yeah.
And he gave me the name for the last story, which is Who Am On Last.
I like it.
Yes.
One of the things that I didn't realize was just so fun, but difficult and super confusing is to just write in Bizarro speak.
Yeah, not easy, is it?
I mean, just the few tweets that you and I had back and forth, it took so long to figure out how to write those.
Yeah, it's like I've said it's like writing 3 languages all at the same time. Because you have to write what he's saying, and dialogue's not easy to write in the first place,
Sure.
for me anyway. And then you have to do the opposite of what he's saying, and then you have to polish it to make sure that it is funny and understandable.
Yeah, right.
Because if you just flip, as you know, just from trying to write in it, if you reverse every single word,
it just doesn't
there's
work.
no way. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
No one's going to understand what the hell he's saying. So you've got to you got to be very surgical about it, and it's still got to make sense.
Dal Bush, the co-owner of Challengers and my business partner, he wrote the text for the signing, and it was hilarious. And I'm going to have to pull it up because it made me laugh, because he did a really great job of kind of adding his own little spin of Bizarro speak. It's very short here for people that haven't seen it on the website or on Facebook. Here it is. Challengers am not hosting awful Bizarro writer Heath Corson for lowly dreaded signing. Us hate serious comic with no jokes, and we know you hate it 3. You am not invited to bring own copies of Bizarro, and we am not expecting to have copies of the first 3 issues unavailable for purchase.
It's just amazing.
I love the way he added, and we know you hate it 3.
Yeah, 3 is great.
Right?
3 is great. Whenever you could get a surprise in there, in the dialogue, is always really fun. Which is why
is now a catchphrase at our store.
Is it really?
Yeah, we use that all the time.
I feel like they say it in the DC offices too.
Yeah.
Which I love. I love that I've actually added to canon.
Right.
With Boo-ray and awesome.
And there's such easy things, but they're so adaptable.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
They're so adaptable.
Man, I can only imagine how difficult it is, and there may be points where you want to make Bizarro talk less. Just maybe he'll be quiet in this panel.
I do have to say I've read a lot of reviews, and the reviews have been just extremely positive. The one thing that everyone says, which I've been very aware of, and I don't know if I really thought of it as going into it, was Bizarro speak can get exhausting to read. And when you read a comic book, you're just speeding along.
Yeah.
Comics are pretty easy to read. So anything that's going to be a speed bump, even if it's for a second, like, if it's like a bump and you go, wait, what did he say? Oh, I get it. And then you keep going.
Yeah.
That's great. But too much of those derail the flow of the piece. So there is really a balance of, like, how much can we have Bizarro talk? How much can he comment on stuff? He's great with punchlines. He's great for, it's really, a lot of that narrative falls on Jimmy, which I think is great, because it's great to have Jimmy there as the guy who's exasperated by it, but also he's us. He's the guy who's going to be like, dude, just play it cool for a second. Oh my God, you're so annoying. Because, he could call that out and say that,
Yeah.
We did a joke in number 2 where they're in Central City and they're looking for the Flash Museum, and Bizarro says, "Me, I'm thinking I'm not that way." And he goes, "Okay, does that mean that way or the opposite way? Like, what? Because remember in Burnside, you took us the total wrong way." And I thought that's actually what would happen if you were in a car ride with that guy. Like, you'd finally go, "Okay, are you telling me the opposite way, or do you really mean that way?" There's truth. There's truth in my comedy.
Indeed.
There's truth in my art.
I feel like you may know a Bizarro or 2 in real life.
I feel like I am a Bizarro in real life. Actually, I'll tell you this story. I don't know if you've seen this. I've tweeted it a couple times. But when I was 9 years old, we moved from St. Louis to Chicago.
Okay.
And I made a Superman outfit for myself, like out of, underwear and like a blue shirt, and I tied a red blanket around my neck, And I made my dad take pictures of me. Like I put masking tape on for the S,
Okay.
and I put like chains of masking tape, and I had my dad take pictures of me like snapping the chains, like I was Superman. It was awesome. So when I got this job, I said to my dad, "Oh my God, you got to dig up those pictures and you got to send them to me because I want to show editorial this picture of me dressed as Superman." So he sends them to me, and my jaw drops because as a kid, I had put the S on in masking tape in the mirror, and
Oh.
it's backwards. So this picture that I had thought in my head for years that I was Superman,
You
I'm
were
Bizarro.
Bizarro. Oh man, this story keeps getting better. This book was fate, my
It
friend.
was fate. It was destined to happen. I was like, holy crap. And when I sent it to the marketing and publicity department, they went nuts. They were like, holy shit. Like, this is destiny. So yeah, me and Bizarro. Like
Wow.
I am writing, and then I put that in the book. That was in our 8-pager where Bizarro painted himself. He painted the S on in the
In the
mirror,
mirror, yeah,
which is
yeah,
why it was backwards because it always bugged me that it was backwards.
sure.
So I was like, well, that's why it's backwards. And I actually bought myself a Bizarro t-shirt to walk around cons and stuff with. And I will tell you, you don't know that it's backwards because every time you look in the mirror, it's
You
like,
see, yeah,
oh, I look
yeah.
like Superman. Damn, I look awesome.
Years ago for Halloween, I did the simple Superman shirt underneath a shirt and tie, and just had the shirt and tie loosened and like a cape sticking out the back.
Right.
But the one picture I took of it was in a mirror, so I'm Bizarro.
That's right. We all am Bizarro. That's the thing. Bizarro am in all of us.
Speaking of bizarre things, I love the joke of Canada being Bizarro America.
Me too. I'm very good friends with Jeff King, who does Convergence, the
Yes.
Convergence series, who is from Canada. And Jeff is my official Canadian advisor on the book. And he thought it was very, very funny, as did Meredith and David Finch, who are both in Canada as well.
Nice.
I ran the joke past them, and they fell on the floor laughing. They were like, "That's hilarious," because yeah, it's Bizarro America. Of course, that's what Jimmy tells him to get him as far away as possible. And that's just been the gift that keeps on giving. The fact that they are on the road to Bizarro America,
Bizarro.
aka Canada.
I got the nicest email from Jeff King a couple of months ago, right around C2E2, and I've never met him or talked to him before this, but we had done up an in-store convergence checklist, and whenever we do stuff like that, we're part of an organization called Comics Pro, so we share it with other retailers.
Okay.
And he was at an event in California at Earth 2, and they had a version of the flyer.
Oh
And so he
wow.
complimented them on that, and Car D'Angelo was nice enough to tell him where it came from. So he tracked me down just to thank me for doing that. And that's amazing because I feel in today's age, more and more creators like yourself are so accessible and so willing to reach out and talk to not just fans, but retailers as well. And it really makes us feel like we're not doing this alone.
Right. Right. I think that's awesome. I think as creators, we're all very aware of that like you guys are the ones in the trenches. And I think, as much support as we can give, I'm very, very new to this. And the funny thing is, so is Jeff. So we're both, we met at the DC Talent Summit. And he was my very first friend at what my wife now calls DC camp. That we were walking to the bus, and he was walking next to me, and I was like, I don't know anybody. He's like, I don't know anybody. I was like, this is my first book. He's like, it's my first book too. And I was like, oh my gosh, I do a lot of stuff with film and television. And I was like, oh my gosh, me too. And he's like, oh, hey, we should be friends. And I was like, yeah, please be my friend. Sit next to me at lunch so I'm not all by myself. So we became fast friends, and that was hilarious. And that's also how we grew to make fun of and hate Cullen Bunn. Jokingly hate Cullen Bunn. But we were, that night we were all sitting around, and we were chatting with Cullen, and we're like, how many books do you write? And he's like, oh, something like 8 or 9 right now. And we're like, You write 8 or 9 books? Like, you're horrible. We hate you. Like, I can't get one book out.
He
You're
makes
an idiot.
everybody look bad. He's got like 2 more books coming out now as well.
Him and Sewell, I gotta tell you,
Yeah,
those
yeah.
guys, they make the rest of us look like slackers.
Well, they're not writing for TV and Hollywood and anime, so that you have
That's what I
you
keep
got
telling
that. Yeah,
That's what I
yeah.
tell them all the time.
Right.
Although I don't know, Cullen sells us every once in a while. Every year, Cullen sells one of his comics to TV. So,
Right.
I don't know. What else do you want to know about the book? Please ask me questions about Bizarro. I'm having so much fun doing this.
Now, I'm afraid to ask too much because I don't want anything spoiled. Not that you
Okay.
would, but
Okay.
I imagine there'll be a point when they make it to Bizarro America that Jimmy maybe doesn't want to let go of Bizarro because he realizes that he is having too much fun and he doesn't want to leave Bizarro. But that's just I'm projecting.
I will. Well, you know what? I don't want to ruin anything.
Of course, yeah. No spoilers. I'm sorry.
I will tell you. We are headed towards a big fight and a big rift in the bromance.
Oh.
And so because that's already set in motion. Because as you know, Jimmy has plans to do this coffee table book.
Yes, that's his ultimate or his ulterior motive for all of this.
Ulterior motive, and so he is not doing this for the most transparent reasons. And he's told Bizarro that they're best friends, and that's the reason that he's there. And once Bizarro finds out that that's maybe not the truth, that will definitely be that will be emotional and hard for both of them once that truth comes out. So that time bomb is already ticking.
Gotcha.
And you are right to notice that. And we have some really fun. I will tease some stuff with you. Number 4, as you see from the cover for our solicitation, is our Zatanna issue.
Yes.
Which I'm very excited about. It looks spectacular. All I will say is they go to Branson, Missouri to see Zatanna perform. And Bizarro realizes he is a very powerful backwards magician in his own right.
Oh.
Because he's sitting there and goes, hey, me no understand what she's saying. And Jimmy's like, it's just gibberish, dum-dum. Like, no, you don't. And Bizarro tries it, and sure enough, realizes he could do backwards magic.
See, as if it wasn't hard enough writing Bizarro speak, you now have to write Zatanna spells as well. And now apparently Bizarro Zatanna spells, which I don't even know how to wrap my head around that.
Yes. Bizarro Zatanna spells, and as it turns out, Bizarro is a even more powerful backwards magician than Zatanna.
Well, that can't cause trouble for anybody.
That's right. That causes a ton of trouble. I will tell you, once Bizarro starts to realize he has powers, he opens up a portal and falls through basically every dimension, every magical dimension in the DCU that I could think of.
Man, you guys were already doing such a great job of going to all the geographical locations in America so far for the DC universe, and now you found a way to make it other realms and planes and dimensions.
Yes, so then
you're really covering your ground.
I am covering my ground. And the funny thing is, Gustavo makes so much fun of me. He's like, you are a super nerd, like, because I'm telling him characters and places that I want to have cameos, and he's like, you're a super nerd. I don't even know who that is. And then in 5, I will tease that it is our Hangover / Ocean's 11.
Oh man! All right. Your heist episode.
Our heist issue where we get to Vegas and our guys have to break in and out of Area 51. So this is our heist issue where we do our intergalactic look at the DCU. Because they break into an alien prison, and I will tell you that we pull aliens from all around the DCU in this prison.
I would assume, and you don't have to say yes or no, that part of that has to deal with their chupacabra friend.
I will not ruin that.
Nothing at all. Nothing. I
Nothing at
said
all.
nothing. I said nothing.
But you might see some familiar faces in the alien prison.
So it seems like all of this that you're doing, your depth of knowledge of the DC universe is pretty vast. Have you been a lifelong comic fan?
I've been a lifelong comic fan. I have been a fan since I could remember. I mean, I was never a guy who collected.
Yeah.
I was a guy who read, and I just had to read everything. So I have right now, I think something like 28 long boxes
Nice.
shoved in the back of my closet that my wife's like, let's just put them in the garage. And I freaked out. I was like, the garage is not climate controlled.
Nope,
You do
not at
not
all.
want those in the garage. Like,
Nope.
and I freaked out. And she's like, I've never seen you do that. I was like, well, it's 30 something odd years of like books and collecting, and it's important to me. So
Also, this is research material. You have to have it at your fingertips.
That's right. So yes, but it's actually served me very, very well that I'm able to pull stuff like that out and make references and things like that. So that's been fantastic. The only thing that I'm bummed that we didn't get to do in this series is Giant Turtle Olsen.
Oh yeah.
Because
yeah.
they did it in Justice League 3001.
Yeah.
So DeMatteis stole it from me.
Ugh.
So you will not see Giant Turtle Olsen in this series.
Yeah, yet. You won't see him yet.
Yet. That's right. That's right.
Would you be more interested in doing an immediate sequel to this, or just you and Gustavo getting to run with something else?
Both.
Yeah.
We are not.
Good answer.
We're not done telling the story of these characters. My whole second arc would take us to BIZARRO World, which we haven't even seen yet.
Sure.
So I really want Gustavo to get a chance to play with BIZARRO World.
Man, he would go crazy with that.
He would go crazy, and I definitely would love to see BIZARRO World. I would like to. I would love to get a chance to revisit these characters some more. That said, we are also sort of looking for, where else our corner in the DCU could be that we could carve out maybe something else that we could do. I feel like we've really connected and really just done some fun stuff, and I would love to keep playing with him, and I would love to keep a hand in the DCU one way or the other.
How has the response been to this book internally, editorially?
Everyone I've talked to has been so positive about it. They've just had so much fun. I think it doesn't look like any other book that DC's doing. It certainly isn't tonally like any other book that DC's doing. I mean, even the other comedies were a little crazier. So, we're not quite Harley Quinn, the R-rated Harley Quinn. We're not really a Batmite. We sort of are in our own sort of odd universe. So it's been really a great response. Everyone has been just so kind about it. I ran into Scott Snyder at in San Diego, and I don't know Scott. I only have just recently met him, and he was so nice and so complimentary, and was like, BIZARRO is just the kind of thing we should be doing at DC, and it's just so nice to have these sort of different tones and be able to get, different people. Because DC's got such a long history of doing such great, funny books.
Sure.
That it's nice to sort of go back to that. And I'm a big fan. Like, look, my Justice League is Justice League International.
Sure. The Bwahaha era. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's my Justice League, and Legion of Substitute Heroes, and Inferior 5, and Angel and the Ape, and all these just great comedy books.
Amazing Man.
Yeah. Plastic Man, the Kyle Baker Plastic Man. Yeah. Just such fun, and it's so joyous. So to see them go away for that for so long, it's sort of nice to be one of the people responsible for bringing us back.
I specifically remember when I was a much younger version of myself. Okay, a kid and a comic fan back then, thanks to my older brother. But I specifically remember the most that DC had the most diversity as far as they had westerns, they had fantasy books, they had superheroes, they had space books. And then all that went away for a while. And in the last couple of years, they've been really trying hard to bring back that variety and that diversity of genre, but it doesn't necessarily land or work with today's audiences, which is, and even as a kid, like I wasn't reading Jonah Hex, or I wasn't reading Warlord, but I knew they existed, and I liked the fact that there was that much variety. I remember finding Warlord action figures in a Kmart and thinking, I don't know what this is, but they're comic books, so they have to be cool.
Right. I'll tell you where I got hooked was at the supermarkets when I was a kid. They had the Blue Ribbon Digests, and they had something called the Year's Best Stories. And in that, you would get a Legion of Superheroes. You would get a Sergeant Rock. You would get a Swamp Thing. You would get a Justice League. You'd get a Justice Society. So all of a sudden, I was being exposed to all these characters that I had no idea who the hell they were. But I was like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
like,
all in one package and all different
in one
times.
package. And, you know, I didn't respond to all of them. I think Swamp Thing, like it was an Alan Moore Swamp Thing. And I think that was a little over my head at the time. But, you know, I certainly loved Legion of Superheroes, and I went back and looked up all those. And then when I was older, I went back and I was like, oh, yeah, look at this Swamp Thing. And I went back and I grabbed those. So that really was one of the things that got me into all these other different kinds of characters.
I don't know if it's a generational thing or not, but now we try so hard to make every comic, like, you know, the old saying is every issue of a comic is somebody's first issue of any comic.
Mm-hmm.
And there's such a shift in trying to make sure that when you pick it up, if it's in the middle of a story, you know what's going on and they have a recap. But when we were comic fans as kids, they didn't have that. And if you picked up like part 4 of a 5-part story, you just followed along.
Right.
And you went back if you could. Dal has one of his first stories, one of his first books was the Tom and Mary Bierbaum and Keith Giffen 5 years later Legion of Superhero stuff, which, you know, and he was a kid, and it fascinated him so much. And there were no costumes and there were no code names. They were just using their real names. And that made him like go back. And that was his first shopping experience, was looking for Legion back issues, saying, I have to know more of what this is.
Right.
And I don't know if it's the adventurousness we had or the lack of the internet or whatever it was, but it seems now that people really stray away from, well, this isn't the first issue of a new story or something like that. Like, it doesn't matter. Just pick it up and go. Hit the ground running.
Well, I also think you get a lot of people waiting for the trade. Obviously, they go, well, I'll pick up the whole thing in the trade then.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to jump in now.
Look, I get that. And a 6-issue run of BIZARRO is going to be a great collection to have, because you're going to have one beautiful package and a whole story.
Right.
But what we're finding out half the time is people say that, and then they forget.
And
they don't realize it came out, or at the time when it comes out, they think, oh, well, if I really wanted it, I would have bought the singles. Or I'm not saying that people don't, but the people that say they're waiting for the trade don't necessarily wait for the trade all that often.
Of course.
And
or they go, well, I'll wait till I'll wait till it gets discounted. I'll wait till it goes down to 50%. It's a great time to be a comic book fan, because there is so much great stuff. And there's television, and there's movies, and there's video games, and there's
animated features. There you go.
I mean,
I was adding that one in there for you.
Yeah, there's everything. So it's a great time to be a fan of these characters, because you have a lot of options. It's a tough time, I'm sure, to be a retailer and a creator and a writer, because there are so many options, and you're competing against great stuff, which is fantastic. But it's also, you know, you're competing against Batman the Arkham Knight. And that's a great freaking game that I just finished, and I had a great time playing it. But, you know, I probably didn't go to my store and buy anything the couple weeks that I was
while you were
playing.
immersed in it. Sure.
Right. So it's always a challenge. It's always interesting, but I do love the fact that DC is doing some very different things and they're experimenting, and everyone should have their tribe. Every tribe should be reflected in the comic books. Everyone should be able to open up a book and see themselves reflected back, whether it's
Sure.
comedy or Western or superheroes or space stories. Like I think everybody deserves a chance to get something awesome out of these books, because the characters are so malleable and so elastic that you could take them in so many amazing directions and never break them and never ruin who they are, you
And
know?
who doesn't want to look at a character and, as you said, see a reflection of themselves, or say that to themselves, in that situation, if that was me, I would do that same thing.
Yes.
Comics make you want to be better,
Yeah,
and comics help teach you what the right thing to do is.
I
Of
agree.
course, that doesn't necessarily explain the popularity of the Joker or Deadpool or uh, Deathstroke. All the really young kids gravitate toward those characters, and it's weird to me how they find out about them because they shouldn't be reading them. But
I'll give you a theory.
okay,
I remember being that age, and I remember at the time it was the Punisher, and it was Wolverine, and everything was Punisher, and everything was Wolverine, and I think Hitman was out at the time,
yeah,
and I was a angry teenage boy who didn't have a whole lot of power, and who it's wish fulfillment that, hey, I don't have any stakes, I don't have any, all I have is this frustration that I feel, and this guy's going out and shooting people or slashing them or whatever, or being crazy, and has the freedom to do that, and I wish I was that guy.
yeah.
And I think that there is a wish fulfillment element there when you're an angry teenage kid, whoever
Hope,
you are,
hopefully,
male,
with the
female,
distinction of
whatever.
knowing that that person deserves it.
Sure.
Uh, from
But whatever it is, it is a wish fulfillment, and I think as you get through that, it gets you to the other side, and you go, oh, I think I'm ready for some more sophisticated character-based storytelling. Because my issue with some of those characters was always like, um, there's no stakes.
yeah.
There's nothing. They're not winning anything. I think Jerry Dugan has done such a great job with Deadpool that he's made him such a cool, relatable, sympathetic character. But that's not necessarily how he started. He
No, not
starts
at
sort
all.
of as the Mask.
Yeah.
Just sort of bouncing around and being crazy. And there's something awesome about those characters. But I think that at some point I want a real story.
Yeah, it can't always be that all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel that, as you said before, this is the best time to be a comic book fan, and no matter who you are or what you do, there's a book you will love.
Yeah.
And
And
it's up to me to get it to you. And it's
right.
up to you to make it.
I will tell you, in the brief time that I've been able to work for DC, and I can't believe as a fan I can say out loud, "Oh, I work for DC." Like it's one of the it's one of the things I'm the most proud of in my life. And it's just so flattering and so humbling and so exciting. And I will tell you, everyone that I've met in DC, whether they be writers, artists, editors, um, echo that sentiment. Like they say the same thing. They are all so excited to be able to get up and like play with these characters and contribute to this canon and just stand on the shoulders of these great creators and really reach for the stars every single day. And it's so awesome to meet someone who you're such a fan of and have them be like, "Oh my God, let's geek out about this stuff we love." Like everyone that I've met is a fan as well as a professional. And
Sure.
that's so cool to me. It's just so cool.
That's why the name of our store is Challengers Comics and Conversation, because you want to talk about the things that you like, and you want to find people that like what you like, because it's one thing when you like it, but other people, it kind of validates what you like, and it gives you somebody to share this connection with. And I found that a lot of comic fans don't necessarily have other people in their social circles who are comic fans.
Mm-hmm.
So the comic shop is a place they can go and talk about that stuff. And there's nothing too nerdy or too geeky to talk about. It's a comic book shop. You can talk about whatever you want.
Totally.
And even, it may be a thing that I'm not as big of a fan of as you are, but I love the fact that you are that fan.
Yeah. And for the love of God, like, it should be all inclusive. Like, this is an all inclusive party. I don't feel like our numbers as comic book readers are high enough to tell anybody that they're not welcome at this party.
You look at Superman and Batman, and they are known all over the world.
Yeah.
But this, even the Dal made a great comment the other day, was like, I've been doing this for 25 years now, but early on, if you saw somebody walking down the street in a Superman t-shirt, they were coming to this store. You knew they were coming to buy comics.
Right.
Now you see comic book t-shirts everywhere.
Right.
And hats, and like people resonate and respond to those characters without reading the source material, and I just would think that they would maybe get so much more out of it if they read the source material.
Sure. I mean, it's such a fun time. Like, my nephews have had costumes, and when they were 7 and 5, they would dress up as superheroes, and we would go to dinner. Like, they would wear outfits out.
That's awesome.
I mean, they were like, what are we going to wear tonight? Okay, I'll wear Flash, you wear Iron Man. And they would go to dinner. And they were just like, why not? And I was like, wow, what awesome costumes they have these days.
Yeah.
That kids can just like put on and walk around. And everyone's like, wow, you look awesome, Iron Man. Good to see you.
Thanks for protecting everybody.
Like, it's just really neat.
We either had to use masking tape in a mirror, or had the Ben Cooper costumes, which were the plastic half masks, and then a plastic costume, but instead of being the actual costume of the hero, it had an illustration of that hero on the chest.
Right.
So you always felt like, that's not right.
It's not right. That's right.
Yeah.
And it always had those really sharp little things in the mouth that you'd stick your tongue
you'd always
through.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and then the elastic would just dig into your hair.
Yep. My mom never liked those. She always made our costumes, so she was like, I'm not buying you that. Like, I will make you a costume. So she always made my costumes by hand.
That's awesome.
Which was awesome. But I never got to be a superhero. I was Inspector Gadget.
Okay.
And I was a Ghostbuster.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was Boo Berry from the Monster serials.
Good work.
But hey, speaking of your mom is awesome.
My mom's awesome. My mom loves you.
I've met your mom. I haven't met you. I've met your mom.
My mom, you were so nice to my mom. She came out of there glowing. She was so excited. She's like, and they gave me a discount. And like, I know that she got a 20% discount on a $3 book, but she couldn't have been more proud of that. She was so excited. It was hilarious. She will be there on Wednesday night.
Excellent.
My entire family is coming out.
I even met your dentist.
You met my dentist?
Yeah. Or I guess former dentist.
That's hilarious.
This is why social media is so great, and how I was talking before about how people like you are so good at outreach for that. So you and I came into contact because I had tweeted out about the book and how really funny it was and how great it was. And in doing so, I misspelled Gustavo's name. The man that I've known and talked to regularly, I misspelled his name, but I got yours right, and you responded right away.
Yeah.
So we had a brief exchange, and then you sent your mom was looking to buy the book, and you said, hey, you should go to that place. They said nice things.
Yep, that's exactly right.
And here we are now. Look at that.
I know. Isn't that hilarious?
I love the way that, like, just not just technology, but comics bring everyone together.
Comics bring people together. It's
because
really
ultimately,
true.
You and I want the same thing.
Yes, that's absolutely true.
A book like BIZARRO, which appeals to so many different kinds of people. And we were already going heavy on BIZARRO because of our relationship with Gustavo and because we love his art. But once we read it and thought, oh my God, this is hilarious. I mean, King Tut is your first villain.
Yeah.
That was such, like no one, like, King Tut has only been in the comics so briefly. uh, since they officially made the jump from the TV show, and here he is as a used car salesman, and it couldn't have been a better role for that character.
Oh my gosh. And that came from growing up in Chicago, where you have all of those great local car salesman ads.
Not only do we have all that on TV with all those commercials and the mascots, Western Avenue, which is the street we're on, has the most used car dealers of any street in America.
Hilarious. But you got like Bob Rohrman, you got, Solozzi Edelson Chevrolet.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to ask you to say Bob Rohrman.
You got Solozzi Edelson Chevrolet, where you always save more money.
Harold's mom making the cookies.
You
got Mad Max Madsen.
I was like, what a perfect idea, because I knew I wanted our first stop to be in Smallville. And I was like, who could possibly be a bad guy in Smallville? And then I started thinking, like, what about a theme car salesman that goes so far over the top that, like, and then he actually gets powers, and uses them to enslave the entire town to buy cars.
Right.
To have his best
he's not
quarter
stealing
yet.
right from people. They're buying the car. He's still using it to do his job.
Yes. And I thought, that's my book. That's the book I want to do in a nutshell. Like, these guys are willing to go to the mat because the stakes are so low, they're so incredibly high. And I was like, that's Bizarro in a nutshell. Like, that's the world. That's the book I want to write.
Well, for it being your first comic, it set the tone for the whole series and made us say, yes, definitely this. Yes.
And then from there, it's pretty easy when I go, hey, in this one, I'm using the dead ghost of El Papagayo. My editor's like, yeah, well, can't get any crazier than that.
So, of course, the ghost of Jonah Hex has to show up, of course.
Of course he does.
Yeah.
And he gets a nice little moment with his great-great-granddaughter.
Yep.
Chastity Hex, who may or may not be his actual descendant, but I assume it is.
Sure, why not?
Yeah. She's got the name.
Or is from now on.
Yeah, exactly. So it has just been a blast. I have to say, there is nothing that I have pitched that they have told me I really couldn't do. And so it's just been so much fun.
Well, I don't remember who the editor is on this, but I'm sure they have to look up half of the things you're saying because they might not remember.
Oh no, it's Eddie Berganza. And
all right. Eddie knows his stuff.
Eddie knows his stuff. He's been around for quite some time.
Yep.
I did stump him with El Papagayo. He was like, that's one of ours, right? Like, you didn't just make that up. I was like, oh no, he's for real. And I was like, you know what? And I said, hey, and I needed someone who had a parrot. I needed someone who had a pet.
Yes.
Because I wanted them to jump into the bodies of Bizarro and Colin.
Yeah.
So I found El Papagayo, and I was like, that's my guy. And can we talk for a second that they let me give Bizarro a pet chupacabra, and now has become a breakout sensation that
sure.
people love Colin?
Yeah, I'm afraid that this arc is going to be him leaving at the end, and I don't know if the dynamic would be the same.
I know,
with him gone, but of course you don't say anything either way.
I know.
But yeah.
Colin is a breakout hit. People love them some Colin.
And Colin sure doesn't like Jimmy.
Colin does not like Jimmy. He's not a big Jimmy fan. He's not a big Jimmy fan. He's sort of like a cat that only likes the owner.
Yep. I don't know. Maybe he knows Jimmy's motives all along.
I know, right?
Like Colin he's a pretty sharp guy.
He did suck his brain at the beginning.
That's true.
Just saying.
Yeah. I really hope, and I'm sure this won't be the case, but this would be such a great book to have for this holiday season. But I think that's too fast in the publishing schedule for DC to have the trade out by then.
I don't think the trade comes out until March or April.
Okay.
I believe that. Gustavo and I did say, how about we do a holiday special? So I don't know if they'll let us do a Bizarro I pitched an opposite day special. I was like, let us do an opposite day special.
Which would make most people think, that's a thing?
Yeah, right?
Just like everything else. Yes, it's a thing.
I will tell you that maybe you'll see Bizarro and Jimmy in the Harley Quinn upcoming road trip
Okay.
that is happening.
That actually comes out the Wednesday for your signing.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
great. Well, maybe there is maybe Harley comes upon two hitchhikers, and maybe someone that you're talking to wrote the dialogue
Oh,
for
that's
Jimmy and
awesome.
Amanda, who were so nice to let me do that.
That
So,
brings up a question that I meant to ask before and forgot. You guys have some stunning guest artists in each issue as well.
how about that?
Right? The first time, like when I turned the page and saw the Bill Sienkiewicz page, I'm like, what just happened?
Yes. What just happened there?
Man, how did that come about?
I think it was actually very smart on our editor that he was like, look, I know how daunting it is for Gustavo to do a full book and stay on track, stay on time. So he's like, what if you give me like one or two splash pages every book, and we try to get a guest artist so that, and Gustavo will do his version of Bizarro and Jimmy. So it's never Bizarro and Jimmy. It's something else usually.
Yeah.
And then we can have our guys sort of responding to whatever the rest of the splash page is. And I was like, that's amazing. Who can we get? And when he told me we got Sienkiewicz, I was like, holy crap. And then after that, I started thinking like, well, who else can we get? And I remember pitching Francis Manipul because I knew we were going to go to Central City and do a flash bit. And they loved that idea. We were so lucky to get Francis. And then the Ba and Moon page, I know Gustavo was so excited to do.
Anatomy of Bizarro was so great.
He was so excited to do, and I knew it would just sort of hit everything they like because it's way out there. Like it's a very out there metaphysical concept of going into his body and like having to maneuver around all the craziness in there.
I love that his head is a maze, but his fists are the brains because he does his thinking with his fists.
He thinks with his fists, of course he does, and his heart takes up his entire chest.
Yep.
Yeah. So I just thought, like, what a fun sort of metaphysical way to look at who Bizarro is and what he would have to do to capture the little fat inner child that is Bizarro.
So literally, like page after page of this series, there's so much love on these pages, and there's so much to enjoy. And it's not just you're telling a good story, but the way you're telling it is just literally page after page of fun. And I cannot recommend this book highly enough. People in the store may be even sick of hearing Dal and I talk about it.
Oh, thank you so much.
We will have stacks of 1, 2, and 3 available for the signing.
Right.
I believe that like more than half the people coming in will just be bringing in their previously bought copies because it's been doing pretty well for us. As a matter of fact, as far as of the new DCU YOU titles, it's of the new books, it's our bestseller.
Wow. Well, that's sure nice to hear. And that's probably just, thanks, Mom. That's just my mom going in there and buying just multiple copies every week.
And
Patrick,
I can't. Yes, sir.
I was going to say thank you so much. This has been so wonderful. And I'm so excited to be there. And I'm so excited this is hometown kid makes good. I'm so excited
definitely.
to come back to Chicago and do this signing. And I'm having a bunch of buddies from high school are showing up to see it, and
right.
I mean, it's just going to be a really fun party. So
we'll try to have extra city corruption. We're about to raise property taxes in Chicago. We already have the highest gasoline and the highest sales tax, so we're trying to we're sparing no city-mandated expense for your return.
That's the Chicago way.
That's right,
and that's how you get Capone.
And maybe while you're here, you can vote a couple of times.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I'm still registered. I'm still registered in Chicago 3 times.
Living and dead.
Yeah, of course.
All right, so Heath Corson will be at Challengers on Wednesday, September 9th, starting at 5 p.m. We're going to have copies of Bizarro 1, 2, and 3, and you are encouraged to bring in all of your DC animated movies and the Scary Godmother DVDs to come in and sign, and body parts, and I guess pets. You'll sign pets too?
I'll sign pets, absolutely. Nice. I'll kiss babies, I'll sign pets, whatever it takes.
You'll kiss pets and sign babies even.
That's right.
All those things. Heath, thank you so much for agreeing to do this, for being on Contest of Challengers, and for Bizarro, man. It's so much fun.
Oh, I'm having a blast. Thank you so much for the conversation. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person and being there.
Yeah. Heath, thanks so much again. We're really excited for this. And thank you for writing. Everyone listening, thanks for listening.
And keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 North Western Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. You can visit Challengers on the web at challengerscomics.com. You can direct email to challengers@challengerscomics.com. You can become a fan on Facebook at facebook.com/challengerscomics. And you can follow Challengers on Twitter at twitter.com/challengers.
Yes, your energy level was perfect on that, too.
Nailed it. I nailed it.
Once again, man, thanks so much. And going right back into podcast mode, which is absolutely no different than normal.
It's seamless. You're amazing.
No one will know anything happened.
It's amazing. Well done.
Thank you.